Hey guys, welcome back to the vlog. Welcome back to Papua New Guinea. Beautiful morning out here. We were just waiting on a little bit of fog just to clear up. Andrew and I, one of our new pilots, this is his first observation flight, not only with me, but also at all with our mission. We're heading out to Yembi to drop off a lawnmower, some fuel, and some runway cones as well. And then heading on over to Malamunda, probably in the next video if we have enough battery power to do that as well. So we've already got loaded up and the fog is cleared, so let's get out of here. See ya. Hey guys, well this is Andrew. He's one of our new pilots. We'll get into who he is in a little bit, but let's go ahead and get started. Our fuel on, igniters, fuel pump, low start. Watch my NG first, make sure my oil pressure is coming in. Once it's coming in high yellows, over 14%, will introduce my fuel. Making sure that this is coming up at just a nice steady rate. My oil pressure is now in the green. Now I'm looking at my ITT to see how quickly it's coming up. If it's coming up really fast, then I'd be pulling this off. Once it starts going back down on your ITT, then the start's done. Disconnect that before we flip on our generator or alternator. Alright, we'll flip our generator on. It spikes right here in your amps. And then once it's coming down, we'll do our alternator as well. It's pretty low today. Sometimes it'll go up to 100. Okay. We'll do our auxiliary bus, our V2, and once he's out of the way, then we'll push our prop forward. Alright, our fuel caps, which we did on top, our fuel, which is on, our caps on top, and our selectors, which are both on. Or I guess our fuel would be this. We've already got that plugged in. Our controls are good. Our systems check, which we did in the morning before we even started or anything, and then our train awareness system. Our switches and our instruments. Our switches I'll get here in a minute for like lights and stuff. Our instruments, we've already got everything set up. 12,000, our rotate speed, our VREF if we need it, and everything else is in here. I guess we probably could have put in our flight plan though. We'll get the lights on in a second. Our flaps are set, indicated at 20 and verified at 20. We can tell that they're verified by 20 because if you look at the bottom of the flap and the track that goes down, they meet up at the same. Whereas if they were 30 degrees, you can see the flap is lower than the track, and so you know that it's off. And I'm always making sure it's in the detent and verifying it's at 20 because I've gone like this and hit that like that and taken off the full flaps. I was empty, thankfully, but that could be very dangerous. So, all right, so flaps and radar. We don't have radar on this airplane. Croker Tower, November Tango Kilo. Request taxi, Yembi, 2 BOE.
Super 10 Kilo Group Tower, monitor right, and taxi to runway 10 left, 10 backtrack and line up, with light and feeble QNH 1019, temperature 18, time 35.5.
Morning, we're on 1019er, clear to backtrack and line up 17 left, November Tango Kilo. Right, 1019er on the primary and standby. Our overspeed governor check, push the button in and then add power. I'm just making sure it goes up to 2070 plus or minus 50. I let go of it, and I do it right here, so that when I let go, it just adds power and keeps you going. You don't need to like let go of it and pull the power back and then add it back in. You just let go and it just gets you just enough amount. You're probably gonna get so much information today, you're probably gonna remember like 10% of it.
This is good because I did the training in McNeil.
Okay.
And it's interesting to see what's different than what Darren did in Indonesia.
Yeah, I'm sure there are some slight differences.
Yeah, like we didn't have any of this stuff, so...
Okay.
The sim is exactly the same what we got in the hangar there.
Okay. Alright, so our trim and abort. Our trims are already set up from previous. Our abort, we're going to be 50 knots by our taxiway, or else we'll just abort on the runway. And we'll just go full reverse, heavy braking. If we're airborne before that or anytime we need to abort, then we'll go full flaps up and stuff to help with braking and get us on the ground quicker. After takeoff, we're going to pitch for 85 knots initially. If we have any flaps, we're just going to pitch for 85 because it's going to be below pretty much 1,500 feet or so. 85 with 20 degrees of flaps, 80 with full flaps. So I only do it 2. I know Brent and some other guys do, like, they come up here and they're like 97, 90, 85, 80. I'm not going to be able to remember all those numbers, so I remember the most critical 2. That's how I do it personally, because I'm trying to keep it as simple as I can for a real emergency. I'd like to think that I can remember all that, but that's why I only say 85, 80. So I think Brent does it a bit different, but you'll just see a little bit of differences between each pilot. We're going to pitch for 85 initially. We're going to consider EPL. I say consider EPL because we have to have, I think it's 52% NG to consider it. We have to have at least that. So we're at 54 right now. I just basically sit here at idle. So we have to have at least 52 before we introduce that. Otherwise, if it's at 35%, like it's going down. So all you're basically doing is adding fuel to nothing. We're going to consider feather. I say consider feather because if we were 10 feet off the ground, I'm not going to feather it. If we're 800 feet off the ground, I'm going to feather it. And then we're going to go cut off, pull off, and shut off. And then master and crack my door close to the ground. And then obviously let tower know. And then make sure I'm at full flaps before I do my master off. So, Croak Tower, November Tango Kilo, ready for departure. Ignition condition.
November Tango Kilo, 1 to the left, make right turn, clear for takeoff.
1 to the left, right turn, clear for takeoff, November Kilo. Just push it up slowly so it doesn't just spike. Like it's not going to do anything when we're just sitting here at idle, but ignition condition, flaps 20, making sure they're here. Fuel and harnesses. And we are clear for takeoff. Rotate at 63. Full right rudder 1330, or 1390, correction. Airspeed's alive, I'm looking here, it's around 720. That's about usually what you want, because as you can see, it's still going up. So when I do my airspeed check, it should be really close to that. There's 63, and we'll rotate. I haven't touched the power, and now we're right at 740. So once I do my airspeed check, it should be really close to that. We'll just bring it back a tiny bit. Do a little more nose trim. If you do your airspeed check and it's at 30 and it's already at 740, it's going to be at 750, 755 by the time you're airborne. Okay. So I do that. If you get in the habit of looking for those, when you get into the bush locations, that's where it's critical. It's not critical here, but let's say you have a muddy runway and you're taking off and you slip and you have to go before you're set. You know that you go airspeed alive, I'm at 700, I can add more. Or if I'm at 740, maybe I just don't need to touch anything for bush locations. If you get in the habit of looking, then you know, okay, I can add a little bit more. Or, oh crap, I'm already at 760, you know? All right, over 85 we'll go 10, and over 90 we'll go 0. And this is where kind of looking before you take off to see where the clouds are, so you know how far out do you have to go before you should make your turn. And if you bring this back to the bottom of the end, just for a quick reference, that's going to get you really close to your 2,000 RPM. Sure. And then you can make adjustments, but just so you're not like fishing for where it is until you get the sound of it, that's almost all of our planes are really close to that. Croak Tower, November Tango Kilo, departed time 42. We'll be tracking 302 on climb 12000. Estimating overhead, Yambai Talk 25.
November Tango Kilo 12000 and contact Moresby on primary VHF 120.1 Cessna HF 65908 at 15 miles.
120.1 65908 November Tango Kilo. If you take off and you're right at 740 and you've brought your prop back to 2000, it should bring your ITT very close to 720 without adjusting anything at all. And then you can make some small adjustments. If you start at 720 and bring your prop back, then you'll be like probably 700 or so. I'll trim it for around 100 knots because that's what our minimum airspeed is for our autopilot, so that I can just use my autopilot for my climbs. And then I don't fly with my vertical speed on my climbs, because as you get higher, it's just going to keep bleeding your airspeed off because it's not an airspeed hold. I just trim it from my airspeed hold, and it will keep within a knot or two all the way up to as high as you want to go.
That's why the GFC 700 is so nice. You can put the airspeed hold on it.
I know, it'd be nice if we could upgrade our Kodiaks to the newer ones with the Garmin autopilot, everything. I think it also will fly some of our approaches, like our LNAV Plus Vs, where it's not an actual VNAV. It will actually fly it like a VNAV and connect in, and it will also fly your descents for you as well, where this we just have to manually fly it. Like we can set up our descent profile, but it won't connect into it and fly. Moresby, November Tango Kilo.
November Tango Kilo, Moresby, apologies, go ahead.
November Tango Kilo, 200 miles to the west-northwest of Goroka, maintaining 12,000, copy 1006, estimating overhead Yumbai talk time 25.
November Tango Kilo. 2,000, no report of traffic.
November Kilo. Okay, so I just switched my QNH. Now we're 40 feet low from where we wanted to be. So if you just do 2 clicks on this, they're 20 feet a click. So rather than actually hitting your vertical speed and going up, or if I was 300 feet, I'd do that. But if it's just like 20 feet, then it's just 1 click for each one.
Okay, so it won't just go back to your bug. Your altitude bug. You have to click it up here, and so because you're 40 feet low, 2 clicks brought me up 40 feet.
Yeah, because I'm on altitude hold, it's just holding whatever I have in there. Yes.
It's not tracking your altitude bug then.
No, it's not.
Okay.
No.
Yeah, because I need to learn the S-Tech. I've never used one before.
I'm not a huge fan of it. I think it's like a very simple autopilot. It works fine, but it's just rather simple. Alright, we're just about 15 minutes out. We're nearly at our top of descent. That's what the TOD is there. So what we can do preemptively is we can actually turn our altitude select all the way down to our pattern altitude, and it automatically goes there because we already have it set in right there at 1100.
Okay.
Then we go down to 800 feet per minute, so when we start that, so we can just do as much as we can. We can make sure our fuel selectors, make sure our brakes feel firm on both sides. There we go. It lets us know actually a minute beforehand, but because we're not adjusting our power, if I start it now, I usually start with, especially if I have passengers, I start really shallow with 300 and then start clicking up. If I have passengers, I'm just watching my vertical speed here and clicking up with it. Because if you just go to 8, let's just do 8.
It drops it.
It drops it. And then you'll see
it'll go through it.
I go through it, and then it's just going to porpoise all the way back eventually, and then it's just annoying me. So I'm also kind of just putting a little bit of left hand or left rudder pressure as my speed is increasing. And at first, you'll probably fly with it off like this until like 2 minutes later, and then you're like, oh yeah.
Or Brendan will yell at me.
If you know, every time you make a power change, every time you make a pitch change, you're going to adjust this. Whereas we were talking a minute ago about the 172s, you don't do that. Like, you don't even use your rudder in a 172, basically. And even less in a 152. But this, it's like every pitch change you're going to, every power change you're going to. So yeah, we started our descent the second she said it because now our speed's up to 152, but if we kept it at 127, then we could have waited for a whole minute. But she's telling you that early so that you could flip your altitude select down. Because if you flip it down and immediately hit it, it takes a second for this to talk to this and it won't connect properly. Like, so you'll sit there and keep hitting it. But again, you don't have to hit them at the same time. Just hold it, like that kind of thing. So,
if I do put both vertical speed and altitude, will it stop me at 1100?
Yes, it will. Okay. Yes. Oh, I usually do. I'm going to come up here now. That's where we're going to get to our 1100. So, like I was saying, because now we're going faster, I actually needed to increase it, but it still keeps it within 1,000. Let's just quickly look at this just to verify one last time with our strip chart. Elevation's 80 feet. We're going to be flying overhead, coming back and entering in. It's flat. It was flooded maybe 3 weeks ago, but it should be good now. We can land here with a 6-knot tailwind if we're full up. So if we come over here to Oxpage, we're landing at 6,800, so we'll be landing, and we're going to be in there 10 minutes, so 50 pounds less. So 450 pounds under our gross. So for every 200 pounds, or 100 kgs basically, roughly, I can add 1 more knot on top of this. So I just do it with pounds, or you can do it with kgs. It's confusing, but it eventually won't be. So if I wanted to, I could add on another 4 knots on top of that. So 10 knots tailwind, and I would probably still be just, like it wouldn't really feel that much. Because we're so heavy. It could be draggy out here, but... Oh, I just flew my lawnmower, no joke, like 2 months ago, and it's already broken. And so we're flying them. Their other broken one that was flown out to be fixed is now fixed to replace the broken one. It's an uphill battle forever. Alright, so we said we're going to land at 6850, so 72 knots. 72 knots. Yeah, you might find it helpful to put both of them at 72 so that there's no confusion. I don't, but I know for Brad and Jeff, they've done that, and they found that to be helpful because I also like to keep it around the 165 on the descent, so that if I start getting into any turbulence, it will sometimes bounce about 10 knots. It just gives me a nice 15-knot buffer zone or 17-knot buffer zone so that I don't have to, like, oh crap, zoom, pull the power out as fast as I possibly can. Now as we're getting closer, you're starting to see, okay, there still is some holes here now that we're looking down on it. And then it looks kind of hazy up there, but the clouds don't quite look as thick, maybe like 10 miles up or 17 miles out. So my guesstimation, those higher clouds, I look at it too, I'm like, okay, which direction are they going? They look like they're going off that way, and then I look here, I'm like, oh look, there's some mountains that go in the exact same direction. Those are probably over top of that. That's how I use both of them together.
So we'll be, before that, we'll be getting down.
Right now, it looks like we're going to go right through those clouds, but I think just on the other side, because over there, it looks like it's a lower layer. I think that we'll be able to kind of just weave our way down through it. Alright, so we're going to turn our throttles off. Our brakes are already good. Our VREF is set up. Our lights in our inlet are good.
So do we have to be below 140 for bypass?
We used to do that. It doesn't say that anywhere in the book.
Right, that's what I saw in your video. And that's
we did that for many years because they thought that it was the speed that bent one of our rods. But I honestly think it was a pilot that did it the wrong way, and they were in a hurry on the thing, and they didn't say anything, is my thing, or they didn't know that they did it.
Yeah, okay.
That's personally. So, right there, we're just past 5,000. You can feel the humidity. Yeah. Like, it's almost every single time. The second I feel it, it's at 5,000 almost every time. It's so weird.
It's like where the air level, like, changes.
It is. All right, so I'm seeing maybe a little bit of a trough, more so over here than straight ahead. So I'm just going to go in heading mode now. Now that we're on heading mode, hit my OBS and we'll go to runway 25. I personally like leaving it where it shows the full line because I don't know if I'm going to have to maneuver it anyway. And you can see it also moved all of your magenta boxes out. So if it's really cloudy and you're flying along, you can fly to your magenta boxes and then go, oh, it should be right here, kind of thing. All stations, Yumby 126.7, Kodiak November Tango Kilo, 8 miles to the east, 3,600, circuit 42, Yumby. We have to go around and power up, 20 degrees of flaps, pitch for 12 degrees on the horizon. and then reset our torque to the top of the green. Oh, the reason I say torque is because we're at sea level.
Yeah, we're below 5.
And the reason I say 12 degrees is because that will give you the 73 knots, so that you're just pitching for what will give it to you, rather than trying to pitch for 73 and going, well, I'm 73, but I'm pitching at 20 degrees on the horizon. But that will give it to you, so you can just go, I'm going for this. All right, so we're just 4 miles out. For 3,000, like I was saying, I thought the clouds are probably going to be around the 800 feet. We'll see if they're about 800 to 1,000 feet off the ground once we get down all the way to the ground. Moresby 65908, November Tango Kilo, in the circuit, YMB, report after landing.
November Tango Kilo, Mexico 6598, no contact, maybe frequency, secondary.
I'm sorry, say again, secondary, November Tango Kilo.
November Tango Kilo. Plugging on the ground.
Plugging on the ground. All stations, YMB, November Tango Kilo, in the circuit, YMB. All right, it's down there, right below us, right below me. It looks really clear. Oh my gosh, I hate when that happens.
The drum?
Yes. Scares the crap out of you every time. Nope. I had that happen like 5 feet off the ground before.
Oh gosh, you're like, what did I hit?
Yeah, like, oh, what was that? Oh, stupid drum. All right, a little bit higher than I thought, so they're like, looks to be 1,500 feet off the ground. 172 on final, 82 on base. They have like a bright orange windsock.
That's nice.
Yeah, it's the first one like we've had. I really actually wasn't quite sure at first, but I actually kind of like it. All right, so we're going to come out basically 0.9 miles up here, and then start initiating my turn. That way I'm kind of rolling out at a mile. There's 0.9, start my turn. Want 92 knots here. I'll hold my altitude just for a quick second though. All right, we're pretty much at the end of the runway, so then we're going to start coming on down. Oh, we're at 1,100, we want to lose 300 on this section, then 200, then 500. We're going to go past these hills over here, so we wanted basically 800 turning our base. Kind of shortchanging myself, so I'm going to get back on my heading. All right, now we're going down to 600. Slowly reducing a little bit of power just to get my speed down to 82 knots now. Alright, still don't see it. Where is it? Oh, way up there. Full flaps, checklist is complete. Turning final 580. I'm not even adjusting my power at all. Just letting my flaps slow us down. Haven't even adjusted the power, and I'm almost at my speed. Now, once I'm here, then I adjust my power, and it's a lot easier to maintain what you actually want. So I'm a little bit low right now, so I'm just going to hold my altitude for a second. About where that shaded area is and goes light, that's about the area that I'd like to touch down in.
Okay.
About 1 cone in or 60 meters in from the end of the runway. So a little bit kind of low for these trees up here. We're looking at our vertical speed, that's 450 right now. We're looking for 550 is really the perfect number. Actually, no, that shade's moving. That's for running another one. All right, we're choosing to continue. Can pop. My goodness. Speed on down a little bit. All right, looks good. We're continuing. under 40 knots, we'll come out of reverse, go low idle, 20 degrees of flaps. Because we're unloading things, I'm going to turn around. That way they can just roll it that way, and they have less opportunity to damage the airplane as they walk off with things. Alright guys, well, thanks for joining Andrew and I. We're going to do a little bit of filming just as we're unloading this cargo right here. Heading over to Malamunda in the next video to pick up some passengers that we were not able to get. Brad and I were not able to land there yesterday, so.
This side, you just twist it like that. Oh, okay. And it's really easy. Yeah. All right, look.